Hello everyone, this is Shen Thomas, and tonight I'm going to do a little video, probably 5 minutes or so, and talk about the martial art Wing Chun, just to kind of throw out some things about the style that maybe you haven't heard of, that you don't know about. A lot of people have seen the recent movies starring Donnie Yen called Ip Man, which is about Bruce Lee's Wing Chun Sifu and his life, and a little bit about Wing Chun. But unfortunately, the movie talks a little bit about how you learn it, but it doesn't really show too many good examples of what it's really about. Um, there's the fighting choreography, which actually looks pretty impressive, but real Wing Chun actually doesn't work like how it's shown in the movie with Donnie Yen fighting. One of the main things that is a little bit different is real Wing Chun can strike with knockout force with just one little punch, and it doesn't take 10 little kitten paw punches, like tapping a nail into the ground, like it does in the movie. And so that's kind of a false portrayal of what Wing Chun is. A lot of Wing Chun, instead of various blocks like you see in the movie and then punches, a lot of Wing Chun is not punching. It's actually using the tools of Wing Chun, utilizing body structure as strikes. And kind of cutting down into the center line, being very direct. And so you don't usually see all these really kind of fancy flowing movements. It's more cutting and direct. Um, Wing Chun is based on the idea of being able to be relaxed, but then also being able to use the structure of the body, the bone structure, and the weight of the body behind it to be able to use force that isn't necessarily based on just muscles. And so that's where it's a lot different from the Shaolin arts and from arts that come from that, which would be like karate, taekwondo, martial arts like that. Those are martial arts that they do use some body mechanics where they'll use the hip, they'll get in the stances, and they'll kind of brace into the position, and they'll throw punches with the shoulder or with the hip. Uh, but it's quite a bit different and has a lot of space in between punches and blocks, right? That Wing Chun basically pulls in and it fills in those spaces. So there's not these big wide open punches and blocks, but everything's just very linear and straight. And so even the punches, where if I was to punch like this, I leave all this wide open space to get hit as I'm punching. Where with Wing Chun, all that is closed off. So the only place where somebody can punch me is up in here, right? And so that's why Wing Chun has its tools that change right there. And so you have a lot of people that are critics of Wing Chun. They're always holding his hands too low. He's going to get hit in the head. Well, the idea is that we're about maybe 4 inches away, and instead of coming back to like block something or protect when a punch comes forward, we actually go forward and intercept. So as a punch comes, we actually meet it before it can come to our head. And unfortunately, you don't see too many videos on YouTube that even show that. Whenever you see videos on YouTube, you see a guy doing this and then kind of punching like this, and that's it. And you don't see any Wing Chun. There's no Wing Chun because Wing Chun uses Bong Sao, an angular forearm. That's not just a block, but it's also a spiral attack, kind of like an elbow attack, but it's a forearm. It uses Tan Sao, which is not just a block, but it's also a spiral attack using the forearm. And it uses Folk Sao, which is kind of this little hooked arm. And this hooked arm, what it does is it's actually like a little hammer. And so you hit with the end of it, and no, it doesn't hurt your wrist, because when you lock it in place, there's nothing to hurt. So it's used to hook or to grab without grabbing. So that's the idea. When a punch comes forward, then it's this idea that it just naturally hooks onto it, and then it hits or strikes or hooks the person around the neck, pulls it in. So then you can attack again. And so when you see Wing Chun, and if it's out here like it's boxing, and it's only blocking and then boxing, then that's not really Wing Chun. Wing Chun is when we get in close and we're using our forearms in a lot of these different tools. And what it does is it tends to trap people when they're trying to punch. It traps an arm and it jams, and they don't really know what to do. So they have to move back away to create space. And Wing Chun moves right in. And so that's why whenever you see real Wing Chun, you'll see Wing Chun people that are trying to maintain a really close distance, like grappling distance, because we're taught to punch in 3 or 4 inches. That's our punch. We're taught to get full power punches on the sandbag in 3 inches. Same thing with forearms, elbows, everything that we do, 3 to 4 inches. So we don't need all this room. And you know, the other aspect of it is if somebody tries to grab our punches, we have all these ways to use the tool to break the grab. And so when we break the grab, we're able to strike right from that. So we don't break away to come back and punch, but we'll break away to strike right there. And so that's where Wing Chun's quite superior to most martial arts, is because everything is forward, straight, short, quick, economical, where other martial arts are doing all these big moves, big blocks, big sweeping moves, or they'll punch and pull back. And what we do is we just come right in with multiple forearms, opening up, hitting with the forearms, not necessarily just punching to hit, but each one of our tools, the Folk Sao, the Tan Sao, the Bong Sao, they're all actually weapons. They're not just blocking to punch. They're all weapons in themselves. And so these weapons, they're not really used against the head necessarily, but they're used against the clavicle and the jaw and the neck. So we come right in and we're able to control, jam the arms, and come right in to attack the neck and take the head. And so in boxing, 90% of it is what? Going for a knockout, maybe trying to wear down the person with various shots, the kidney or the liver, right? Only to have this knockout punch. Well, what Wing Chun does is, since they don't want to break the fingers of the hand to try to do a knockout punch on a skull, they would rather just take the neck. And it's not jabbing the neck with the fingers, but it's the hook of the forearm. The hook, the bony part of the forearm that we train on the wooden dummy. And so that bony part, that angle of the forearm right there, that actually hits the neck and disables the breathing, causing the stunning effect. And so the majority of what Wing Chun wants to do is maybe intercept a flurry. When somebody's throwing a flurry of punches, and if they're dancing around, we, keep going forward. And so when they do plant to throw some punches, then we come in, we slap and jam. So we use some arms. They're not really blocks, but they're preventative, kind of like strikes that are preventing them to even move their arms. So then at the same time we can strike and jam and strike. So that's how Wing Chun works. And unfortunately on YouTube you don't really see that. You don't see fighters even getting that close. A lot of Wing Chun teachers think Wing Chun is boxing. And boxing, to me, is in boxing distance. So they're getting that maybe 10 inches for the power, and they're dancing around. And Wing Chun really wasn't made to do that. It was made to get in grappling range, like a wrestler, and then strike in just a couple inches and multiple strikes if it's needed, but each strike as powerful as a punch, a full size punch from other martial arts. Not too many Wing Chun people can get that kind of power in that less a space, you know. So that's something that has to be done. They're training, and many Wing Chun schools, they don't focus on that. So they're doing all these, you know, nice, quick techniques and moves, and then they're hitting, but they're hitting kind of empty. And so that's why you see Wing Chun, you know, when they strike, they're doing all these multiple strikes, but it's not really doing anything to their opponent. And so it takes learning a style of Wing Chun that's very practical where you are developing that power. You have to develop that power with the structure and the mass of the body. It is very different than the type of, you know, corkscrew punches or reverse punches that you see in karate. One thing that's interesting is when you do these punches, karate punches or Shaolin punches on a heavy sandbag that's pretty hard at the bottom of the sandbag, a lot of the force gets shot right back into your shoulder. Uh, where with Wing Chun, we turn the angle, so then instead of a spinning arm that goes straight, it's actually a angled arm that drops down and elongates. And what happens is then the body's weight, the structure of the arm connected to the spine, the whole body's weight is behind that. And it's very much like a hammer blow. And then the hammer blow is relaxed, so it's like dead weight. And so we practice that. So the actual physics of punching and striking is very different in Wing Chun than it is in other martial arts. So that's one of the things that kind of makes it unique among martial arts. How Wing Chun utilizes structure with triangular kind of bone formation in all of its tools and with its footwork. And so what you'll find with Wing Chun tools is Wing Chun tools, if they're done correctly, they won't collapse when force is put against them. And yet you can remain relaxed using the Wing Chun tool. See, and that's where it's different from any other martial art. Any other martial art, you have a power band and you're throwing a punch or a push or a strike, whatever you're doing, right? And what's happening is after that strike's done, then, or even during the strike, it can be moved, it can be blocked, it can be collapsed in, you know, and moved from somebody blocking, right? But with Wing Chun, when we use our tools don't collapse when force is put against them. With Tan Sao, with our Wing Chun punch, the Sun character punch, and with Bong Sao, it doesn't collapse. And so what's interesting is I'll even have wrestlers, you know, I'll put my arms kind of together and I'll have a wrestler come and put his arms around me. And what I'll do is I'll slip a little Wing Chun tool in there like Tan Sao, and I'll completely open him up from using the power of structure, and it breaks his grab because he can't hold on to it. And they'll be like, "Oh, you're so strong. How do you do that?" And it's actually just aligning the elbow and aligning the triangles of the structure of the bones, and then soft pressure going forward, and it strips somebody that's a lot stronger in their power, strips them right off of you. And so the idea of Wing Chun is they get in there with multiple strikes, jamming the arms down. If somebody grabs, then they break the grabs. There are real easy ways to break the grabs using our Wing Chun tools. And then again, every time they grab, it creates an opening for us to strike. So every time somebody grabs me, it's like getting a free hit. And it's not like I'm just punching, but it's because I'm breaking the grab and then hitting. So I'm not trying to break the grab and come away and then come back with another strike. And so that's the other thing that's cool about Wing Chun is all of our tools, they're out there, and it's kind of like they are a Swiss Army knife. And so you have, you know, different things that cut, like a screwdriver, things that kind of block and rotate, things that hook and control. And all these tools can be done with that extended hand. And with that extended hand, I can punch with full power with that extended hand. I don't need to draw it back. So some people, they make fun of this Wing Chun, you know, stance, you know, and the arms that are done, Mansao Wusao. They make fun of it because they're like, oh, boxers are going to punch you. It's like, no, we can intercept right from there and move right in. Or we can intercept and strike right from there. And so it's not a fantasy when you actually train to put your punch in the 3 or 4 inches. And so, you know, my Sifu had us get right up to these sandbags that were almost maybe 3 inches from our chest, and he'd have us punch from there and develop our power. And he'd say, don't worry about speed, just do power first, power first. And you know, from there you can do any of the forearm and elbow blows. And so you don't need this big movement to get an elbow blow. You can, it's just there within the 3 inches. So that's another side of Wing Chun, that is just this proximity of how we can strike and put power into our strikes that are very different from other martial arts. Um, so anyway, I talked enough about that tonight just to give you some ideas. And I'll come back and I'll talk about grab breakaways, how to use the Wing Chun tools to actually break out of grabs. And that's something I kind of need a partner to really show effectively. But then I'll talk about how Wing Chun, the footwork works, and just kind of our ideas of how we use it. You know, what is our strategy of using this art when people are doing various things? They've got a guard up and they're dancing around and just throwing blows, you know, and kind of weaving and bobbing, you know, how do we deal with that? Or if they're, you know, using all this power like karate and throwing all this stuff, you know, right at us, how do we deal with that? So anyway, that will be in some of these next videos, and I'll go in a little more detail. But thanks for sticking around and listening to me tonight. Bye-bye.